What if I told you that every time you bite your tongue to keep the peace, you're actually killing yourself? Not physically, but spiritually, piece by piece. You know that feeling, don't you? When someone crosses your boundaries and you just swallow it. When your boss takes credit for your work and you say nothing. When a friend constantly cancels on you and you pretend it's fine. I'm the bigger person. You tell yourself. I'm mature. I'm above all this petty drama. But here's what Friedrich Nietzsche would tell you. And trust me, this is going to sting. You're not being mature. You're being a coward. We live in a culture that worships fake peace. From childhood, we're programmed to believe that conflict is bad, that nice people don't argue, that good people always turn the other cheek. It's poison. Nietzsche saw through this lie with surgical precision. He called it slave morality, a value system created by the weak, by those who couldn't fight back. So they convinced themselves that weakness was actually strength. Think about it. How many times have you heard these phrases, "Don't make waves," "Keep the peace," "Be the bigger person," "Let it go"? Every single one of them is designed to make you smaller, to make you compliant, to make you harmless. But here's the truth Nietzsche discovered. When you avoid conflict, you don't create peace. You create resentment. And resentment is a cancer that eats you from the inside out. Let me take you back in time. Picture ancient warriors, men who didn't apologize for their strength, who imposed their will on the world without shame. Their morality was simple. Good meant strong, powerful, courageous. Then came the others, the weak, the resentful, those who couldn't win in the game of power. What did they do? They flipped the script. Suddenly, strength became evil, pride became sin, courage became aggression, and weakness became a virtue. Submission became nobility. Turning the other cheek became wisdom. Swallowing your anger became maturity. This is slave morality, and it's still running your life today. Every time you stay silent when you should speak up, you're following this programming. Every time you avoid confrontation to keep others comfortable, you're betraying yourself. You think you're being good, but you're actually being dominated. Here's what happens when you constantly suppress your truth. The anger doesn't disappear. It ferments. It turns into something far more toxic. Resentment. You know this feeling. That bitter taste when you see someone getting away with behavior you'd never tolerate from yourself. That slow burn when you realize you've been taken advantage of. Again, the resentful person is trapped in a vicious cycle. They want to act, but don't dare. They want to confront, but fear the consequences. So they create elaborate stories to justify their passivity. I'm above their level. I'm more spiritual than that. Violence never solved anything. But behind these noble words lies unprocessed rage, unacknowledged frustration, a soul slowly rotting from the inside. Nietzsche warned us, the resentful person isn't just a victim. They're an accomplice in their own imprisonment. Every time you choose silence over truth, you feed this poison, and eventually, it will destroy you. But Nietzsche wasn't content to just diagnose the disease. He offered a cure: the will to power. This concept has been misunderstood for over a century. People think it means dominating others, crushing the weak, building empires on broken backs. They're wrong. The will to power is something far more profound. It's the fundamental drive of all life, the impulse that makes a seed break through concrete, that drives a child to explore, that pushes humans to create, to grow, to transcend their limits. It's your birthright, and slave morality wants to kill it. When you repress your will to power, it doesn't vanish. It turns against you. It becomes self-hatred, self-doubt, the quiet voice telling you to stay small, stay safe, stay silent. Reclaiming your will to power means reconnecting with that vital force you were taught to fear. It means accepting that life is a conflict, and that conscious confrontation is an act of self-affirmation, not violence, not cruelty, but the simple, radical act of taking up space in the world. Nietzsche gave us a roadmap for this journey. 3 stages of spiritual evolution, from slave to master, from victim to creator. The camel. This is where most people live. The camel carries burdens. It bends under the weight of others' expectations. It endures everything thrown at it. The camel thinks suffering is virtue. The more it submits, the more righteous it feels. Sound familiar? I'm patient. I'm understanding. I'm compassionate. But this strength is sterile. It creates nothing. It only endures. The lion. Eventually, the camel's spirit rebels. It can no longer bear the lies it carries. It needs to learn one word. No. The lion fights the great dragon called Thou Shalt. This dragon has 1,000 scales, each bearing a commandment. Thou shalt be humble. Thou shalt not anger others. Thou shalt avoid conflict. To defeat this dragon requires courage. You'll face disapproval, criticism, rejection. The guilt that's been programmed into you since birth will scream at you to submit. But this battle is necessary. Only by learning to say a genuine, conscious no can you free yourself from the prison of submission. The child. The final transformation. The child is the reborn spirit, free from the camel's burdens, free from the lion's defensive battles. Now you create. You choose your own values. You decide where to yield and where to stand firm. You live with joy, authenticity, lightness. At this stage, conflict isn't a battlefield. It's a space for creation. You're not trying to defeat others. You're simply asserting who you are. This is true freedom. Let's get brutally honest about something. Your silence has consequences, and they're not small ones. Every time you choose silence in the face of injustice, you're not being neutral. You're reinforcing the behavior that oppresses you. You're teaching the world that you accept being treated poorly. The abusive boss keeps abusing because no one stops them. The toxic friend keeps crossing boundaries because no one draws new ones. The systems of oppression continue because too many good people stay quiet. Your silence doesn't protect you. It exposes you. People can sense when you're afraid to assert yourself, and those with bad intentions will exploit it. Every unspoken boundary is an invitation for someone to cross it. Every unswallowed truth is an opportunity for lies to flourish. Nietzsche understood this. A morality built on fear doesn't lead to peace. It leads to the degeneration of the human spirit. Nietzsche left us with one of philosophy's most challenging commands: become who you are. It sounds simple. It's anything but. How much of your life are you living for others? How many choices have you made to please your parents, your friends, your boss, society? How many times have you swallowed your truth to avoid discomfort? Most people never become who they are. They spend their entire lives wearing masks, playing roles, trying to be what they think they should be. There's a brutal price for this false harmony. Each time you suppress your true will, part of you dies. Each time you avoid necessary conflict, your identity dilutes. Each time you say yes when you mean no, you drift further from your authentic self. Conflict isn't just unavoidable, it's essential. It's where identity is forged. It's in the clash with the world that you discover what you truly value, what you truly believe, what you're willing to fight for. Without conflict, there's no self-knowledge. Without self-knowledge, there's no authenticity. Without authenticity, there's no real life, just an empty performance. So what's the answer? How do you break free from this prison you've built around yourself? It starts with recognizing that your fear of conflict isn't virtue. It's inherited programming. And like all programming, it can be rewritten. Begin small. Learn to say no to minor requests. Set small boundaries. Speak up when someone cuts in line. Correct people when they get your name wrong. These might seem trivial, but they're not. Their practice runs for the bigger battles ahead. Build your confrontation muscle slowly. Start with low stakes. Work your way up. Remember, this isn't about becoming aggressive or cruel. It's about reclaiming your right to exist fully in the world, to have opinions, to take up space, to matter. Here's something beautiful that Nietzsche understood. When you stop fearing conflict, you actually create more genuine peace. Not the fake harmony of suppressed voices, but the real peace that comes from authentic relationships. When people know where you stand, they respect you more. When you have clear boundaries, others feel safer around you. When you're willing to address problems directly, relationships actually improve. The people who get angry when you start standing up for yourself, they were never your friends. They were users who benefited from your silence. The ones who stay, those are your people. The ones who respect you for having a backbone, who appreciates your honesty even when it's uncomfortable. You have a choice to make. Right here, right now. You can continue being the camel, carrying everyone else's burdens, bending under the weight of their expectations, convincing yourself that your suffering makes you noble. Or you can begin your transformation into the lion, learning to roar, to say no, to fight for your space in this world. And eventually, if you're brave enough, you can become the child, creating your own values, living authentically, finding joy in simply being who you are. The path isn't easy. You'll face criticism. Some people will abandon you. The guilt will try to pull you back into silence. But the alternative is slow spiritual death. A life unlived. A voice unheard. a potential unrealized. Nietzsche didn't promise comfort. He promised the chance to live as an authentic individual. And that's worth more than any approval from people who want you to stay small. Let's dig deeper into what's really happening when you choose silence. Because understanding your enemy is the first step to defeating it. When conflict arises, your body responds instantly. Heart rate spikes, palms sweat. Your ancient brain screams danger. This is the fight-or-flight response, hardwired into your DNA from millions of years of evolution. But here's the twist. The threats you face today aren't saber-toothed tigers. They're disapproving, rejection, the possibility that someone might not like you. Your nervous system can't tell the difference. It treats social rejection like physical death. Because for our ancestors, being cast out from the tribe was death. This is why confrontation feels so terrifying. Your body thinks you're about to die, but you're not. You're about to live. Society has gaslit you into believing that your anger is wrong, that your boundaries are selfish, that your needs don't matter as much as keeping everyone else comfortable. It doesn't use chains anymore. It uses therapy to speak. Self-help mantras, spiritual bypassing. I'm choosing love over fear. Conflict is just ego. I'm too evolved for drama. These aren't signs of enlightenment. They're elaborate justifications for cowardice. Real love sometimes requires tough conversations. Real healing sometimes demands confrontation. The truly dangerous people aren't those who engage in conflict. They're those who pretend they're above it while secretly seething with resentment. Every time you apologize for existing, you hand them another weapon. Every time you make yourself smaller, you betray your own soul. Let's talk about what this fake harmony is really costing you. In your career, you're passed over for promotions because you don't advocate for yourself. Others take credit for your work. You're underpaid because you won't negotiate. In relationships, you attract users because they know you won't push back. Healthy people can't connect with you because you never show them who you really are. In your family, you become the dumping ground for everyone's problems. The reliable one who never has needs of their own. This isn't virtue. This is self-destruction with a smiley face. Modern neuroscience validates what Nietzsche knew. When you suppress your authentic responses, you literally rewire your brain for anxiety and depression. Each time you bite your tongue, you strengthen neural pathways of fear and self-doubt. Your brain learns that your thoughts are dangerous, that your authentic self must be hidden. But brains are plastic. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you build new pathways. You train your brain to see you as someone worth defending. Nietzsche understood something most people miss. There's a difference between destructive anger and sacred rage. Destructive anger explodes without warning. It's uncontrolled, reactionary. It destroys relationships and creates more problems. Sacred rage is different. It's conscious, controlled, purposeful. It's the fury of someone who refuses to let injustice stand. Sacred rage isn't about destroying others. It's about protecting what matters, your values, your boundaries, your right to exist with dignity. When you learn to harness this energy, you become unstoppable, not because you're aggressive, but because you're aligned with your deepest truth. When you start living authentically, you'll feel lonely at first. The people comfortable with your false self will be disturbed by your real one. Some will try to pull you back. Others will disappear. This is temporary. As you become more genuinely yourself, you'll attract people who appreciate authenticity, real connections, deep friendships, love that doesn't require you to be anyone other than who you are. Here's something beautiful about choosing courage. It's contagious. When you start standing up for yourself, you give others permission to do the same. Your courage becomes their inspiration. Your boundaries become their blueprint. This is how cultures change, not through grand gestures, but through individual acts of courage, one person at a time choosing truth over comfort. You think you're just standing up for yourself, but you're actually leading a revolution. People don't respect doormats. They wipe their feet on them. They respect people who know their worth, who won't accept less than they deserve, who aren't afraid to walk away from situations that don't serve them. When you have clear boundaries, people know exactly how to treat you. When you enforce those boundaries consistently, they learn to respect them. But when you have no boundaries, you invite chaos. You become a dumping ground for other people's problems and bad behavior. Here's something most people don't understand about bullies. They don't target the strong. They target those who won't fight back. Bullies are cowards. They sense weakness from a mile away. But the moment you stand up to a bully, they usually back down because they're not looking for a fight. They're looking for an easy victim. Your willingness to engage in conflict is often enough to end it. There's a spiritual dimension to this that most people miss. When you consistently betray yourself to avoid conflict, you're not just harming your psychology, you're damaging your soul. Every time you swallow your truth, you create a fracture in your integrity. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you weaken your connection to your authentic self. Over time, these small betrayals add up. You start to feel disconnected from your own life, like you're watching someone else live in your body. But the reverse is also true. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you strengthen your spiritual backbone. Every boundary you set is an act of self-love. This is why conflict can be sacred. It's not about fighting others. It's about fighting for your own soul. This isn't just about personal growth. It's about revolution. Every time you speak your truth, you're rebelling against a system that wants you silent. Every boundary you set is an act of resistance. Every time you refuse to make yourself smaller, you're fighting for freedom. Not just your freedom, everyone's freedom. In our digital age, you're being programmed to be agreeable. Social media algorithms keep you addicted to approval. You're conditioned to shape your authentic self to fit what's acceptable. Breaking free requires standing up to systems, to cultures, to the entire machinery that profits from your compliance. So here's my final challenge. Not just to speak up next time someone crosses your boundaries, but to become a force of nature, to embody the will to power that is your birthright. Stop asking permission to exist. Stop apologizing for having needs. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Start taking up space. Start having opinions. Start mattering. Your authentic self is waiting on the other side of your fear. Your real life begins when you stop living for everyone else's comfort. You weren't made to be an eternal camel, carrying burdens that aren't yours. You have within you the lion's courage and the child's creativity, but they're useless if you never let them out. The world doesn't need another silent, compliant person. It needs you, the real you, the one who isn't afraid to take up space, to have opinions, to matter. Stop apologizing for existing. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Stop sacrificing your truth on the altar of fake peace. Your freedom is waiting. But first, you have to stop being afraid to fight for it. The choice is yours. Will you remain in the prison of silence, or will you break the chains and finally become who you were meant to be? Time is running out, not because of any external deadline, but because every day you wait is another day you're not really living. Your authentic life is calling. Will you finally answer?